And welcome back to the heart of the stories we tell, where today we're going to do another Sensational Seven. Why a 7 countdown? Because I have a little more energy than those that do top 5 countdowns, and a little less than those that do top 10s. Either way, I just like the number 7. So, without further ado, today we are going to talk about the top 7 scary stories. And that's not saying much, because I'm a big scaredy cat when it comes to these things. So, let's start with just a quick funny mention. I had a friend who once told me that the scariest movie ever made was the Care Bears movie, and he justified it. He actually said, imagine a world where these creatures could judge that your reasons for being angry or sad or depressed or any other bad emotion was wrong and they could change it. Yep, that's right, mind control. Isn't that a terrifying thought? But enough with silly, let's get right to the countdown. And number 7 happened practically in my backyard, the Amityville Horror. Being that I live in Connecticut, Amity is right around the corner from me, and this story scared the you-know-what out of me. For those of you who don't know, it's a haunted house story from Amity, Connecticut, and it is terrifying. Give it a rent one day or Netflix it. From based on a true story to written by a true master of horror, the book was scary, but I have to say that made-for-TV movie made me hate clowns for years. So of course I'm talking about Stephen King's It. Spider monster played by a clown. No, clowns are bad. We're just gonna keep going and go into number 5, because number 5 is also by Stephen King, but this time it was the book that scared the you-know-what out of me. Pet Cemetery. If you don't know these two stories, they are some of the true horror stories of their day. However, coming in at number 4 is one that revolutionized what horror means. Night of the Living Dead. Back before zombie was an everyday word, these things were the dead come back to life, and they wanted to feast on the living. Pretty much everything we know about zombies can probably be traced back to Romero's classic. But then on to number 3. Not a movie, not a book, just the story that creeped me out at night when I was growing up. The Legend of Bloody Mary. Back in the time before the internet, back then, we used to sit around in the library and tell scary stories. And you know what? When I was in grade school, there was nothing scarier than the idea that if you turned off the lights and said her name 3 times, I don't think I could stay in a bathroom with the lights off on a bet when I was 5 years old. That was the original way to scare someone before creepypasta. On to number 2. Combining a little bit of each of them, written by a master of suspense, was a book, was a movie, was based on a true story. We have The Exorcist, and we need a young priest and an old priest. And I have to say, even today, this one still sends shivers up my spine in a way that I just can't describe. The Exorcist is the story of demonic possession, and depending on who you believe, it might be 100% true. I fought with myself long and hard over these honorable mentions. I didn't want it to be torture, and I didn't want it to be big special effects gore, but the original Nightmare on Elm Street really still can get inside my head. Or dreams, nightmares. And Stephen King's The Stand is still one of my favorite Stephen King books ever, and a passable made-for-TV movie that I hope will be a better movie someday. In the meantime, both of those are horror of different types, because going into number 1 is the one that still to this day makes me afraid to go in the water. Number 1 is Jaws. Jaws the book was set on the Jersey Shore, where me and my family still to this day vacation almost every summer. Although the movie took place up farther north, it was still here in New England. And either way, that movie just got right inside my head. They say that it's because the animatronic wasn't working properly that they didn't get to show the shark, and maybe that's some luck that Spielberg got into. But either way, I can't to this day go in the water without looking for a fin and being a little afraid. So just to recap, The number 7 one was Amityville Horror, right down the road from me. Stephen King's It made me afraid of spider monsters and clowns. Pet Cemeteries had me terrified. Who knew what was coming back? Night of the Living Dead introduced us to the idea of zombies. Bloody Mary was the original viral horror story. The Exorcist, maybe based on a true story, and the story of the devil taking over a little girl. And finally, the story of Jaws, a monster that was eating people at the Jersey Shore. As we walk through the heart of the stories we tell, horror stories and scary stories in general hold a very special spot, mostly way over there away from me because I'm a scaredy cat. They are ones that do need to be addressed. Why do we like to tell people scary stories? Why do we like that adrenaline rush? Is there a certain amount of morality tale? All of this and more are things we can explore in more regular Heart of the Story We Tell episodes on Mondays. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed these, and for all those that disagree with me or think that I'm a baby that needs to learn to grow up and not think these stories are scary, go on down and mention them in the comments, and maybe we will get back to starting a discussion about this later. Till then, I hope you have a good night, and thank you for joining me for this walk through my top 7 scary stories.